The Shurangama Sutra, Volume 1, Part 2. At that time, because Ananda was receiving alms in sequential order, he passed by a house of prostitution and was waylaid by a powerful artifice. On the strength of Kapilā's mantra, which came from the Brahma heaven, the daughter of Matangi drew him on to an impure mat. With her licentious body, she caressed him until he was on the verge of destroying the precept substance. The Tathagata, knowing Ananda was being taken advantage of by an impure artifice, finished the meal and immediately returned to the sublime abode. The king, great officials, elders, and lay people followed along after the Buddha, desiring to hear the essentials of the Dharma. Then the Bhagavan from his crown emitted hundreds of rays of jeweled light, which dispelled all fear. Within the light appeared 1,000-petaled jeweled lotus, upon which was seated a transformation body Buddha in full lotus posture, proclaiming a holy mantra. Shakyamuni Buddha commanded Manjushri to take the mantra and go provide protection. And when the evil mantra was dispelled, to support Ananda and Matangi's daughter and encourage them to return to where the Buddha was. Ananda saw the Buddha, bowed and wept sorrowfully, regretting that from time without beginning he had been preoccupied with erudition and had not yet perfected his strength in the way. He respectfully and repeatedly requested an explanation of the initial expedients of the wonderful shamatha, samapatti, and dhyana, by means of which the Tathagatas of the 10 directions had realized Bodhi. At that time, bodhisattvas as numerous as Ganges sands, great arhats, pracheka Buddhas, and others from the 10 directions were also present. Pleased at the opportunity to listen, they withdrew quietly to their seats to receive the sagely instruction. The Buddha said to Ananda, "You and I are of the same family and share the affection of this natural relationship. At the time of your initial resolve, what were the outstanding characteristics which you saw in my Dharma that caused you to suddenly cast aside the deep kindness and love found in the world?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "I saw the Tathagata's 32 hallmarks, which were so supremely wonderful and incomparable, that his entire body had a shimmering translucence just like that of crystal. I often thought that those hallmarks could not have been born of desire and love. Why? The vapors of desire are coarse and murky. From foul and putrid intercourse comes a turbid mixture of pus and blood, which cannot give off such a magnificent, pure, and brilliant concentration of purple golden light. And so I eagerly gazed upward, followed the Buddha, and let the hair fall from my head." The Buddha said, "Very good, Ananda. You should know that from beginningless time all beings are continually born and continually die, simply because they do not know the everlasting true mind with its pure nature and bright substance. Instead, they engage in false thinking. These thoughts are not true, and so they lead to further transmigration. Now you wish to investigate the unsurpassed body and actually discover your nature. You should answer my questions with a straightforward mind." The Tathagatas of the 10 directions escaped birth and death because their minds were straightforward. Since their minds and words were consistently that way, from the beginning, through the intermediate stages to the end, they were never in the least evasive. Ananda, I now ask you, at the time of your initial resolve, which arose in response to Tathagata's 32 hallmarks, what was it that saw those characteristics, and who delighted in them? Ananda said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, this is the way I experience the delight. I use my mind and eyes, Because my eyes saw the Tathagata's outstanding hallmarks, my mind gave rise to delight. That is why I became resolved and wished to extricate myself from birth and death. The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is as you say, that experience of delight actually occurs because of your mind and eyes. If you do not know where your mind and eyes are, you will not be able to conquer the wearisome, mundane defilements. For example, when a country is invaded by thieves, and the king sends out his It is the fault of your mind and eyes that you undergo transmigration. I now ask you specifically about your mind and eyes. Where are they now?" Ananda answered the Buddha, "Bhagavan, all the 10 kinds of beings in the world alike maintain that the mind consciousness dwells within the body. And as I regard the Tathagata's eyes that resemble blue lotuses, they are on the Buddha's face. I now observe that those prominent organs, 4 kinds of defiling objects, are on my face, and my mind consciousness actually is within my body." The Buddha said to Ananda, "You are now sitting in the Tathagata's lecture hall. Where is the Jeta Grove that you are gazing at?" "Bhagavan, this great many-storied pure lecture hall is in the garden of the benefactor of the solitary. At present, the Jeta Grove is, in fact, outside the hall." "Bhagavan, here in the hall I first see the Tathagata. Next I see the public, and from there, as I gaze outward, I see the grove and the garden." "Ananda, how are you able to see the grove and the garden?" "Bhagavan, since the doors and windows of this great lecture hall have been thrown open wide, I can be in the hall and see into the distance." Then, in the midst of the great assembly, the Bhagavan extended his golden arm, rubbed Ananda's crown, and said to Ananda and the public, "There is a samadhi called the King of the Foremost Shurangama at the great Buddha's crown, replete with the myriad practices. It is a path wonderfully adorned, and the single door through which the Tathagatas of the 10 directions gain transcendence. You should now listen attentively." Ananda bowed down to receive the compassionate instruction humbly. The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is as you say. When one is in the lecture hall, and the doors and the windows are, could someone in the hall not see the Tathagata and yet see outside the hall?" Ananda answered, "Bhagavan, to be in the hall and not see the Tathagata, and yet see the grove and fountains, is impossible." "Ananda, you are like that too. Your mind is capable of understanding everything thoroughly. Now, if your present mind, which thoroughly understands everything, were in your body, then you should first be aware of what is inside your body.